In our last video, we watched the wisest man who ever lived begin his tragic descent. King Solomon, the man whose wisdom was as measureless as the sand on the seashore, started accumulating foreign wives by the hundreds, directly defying God's explicit commands. And his heart, once fully devoted, began to drift toward other gods. But here's what haunts me about this story. Solomon didn't rule alone. He had Azariah, the chief priest, Zadok and Abiathar as spiritual counselors, and Zabud, literally titled the king's friend, a personal confidant whose job was to speak truth to power. So where were they? Why didn't they speak up? Today, we're diving into the rest of Solomon's story, but we're asking a question that almost nobody asks. What happened to the advisors? Did they try to warn him? Did they stay silent out of fear? Or had they too been compromised by the comfort and wealth of Solomon's court? These are the types of content I create. If you're interested, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming videos. Let's pick up where we left off, with Solomon's heart turning away, and the advisors nowhere to be found. The wisest man in the world started building shrines to false gods. He worshipped Ashtoreth, goddess of the Sidonians, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. The man who built God's magnificent temple was now bowing down to idols. 1 Kings 11:9-10 records God's response. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Although he had forbidden Solomon concerning this thing that he should not follow other gods, he did not observe what the Lord commanded. God appeared to Solomon twice, not once, but twice, to warn him. And still, Solomon continued down this destructive path. The conspiracy of silence. Now here's the question that should haunt us. Where were Solomon's advisors during all of this? Where was Azariah, the chief priest, when Solomon started building altars to foreign gods? Where was Zabud, his king's friend, when Solomon was accumulating wife after wife from forbidden nations? Where were the elders who supposedly had decades of wisdom and experience? The biblical record is chilling in its silence. Not a single advisor, priest, or official is recorded as confronting Solomon about his marriages or his drift into idolatry. Not one. According to the passages in 1 Kings 11:1-13, and later reflections in Nehemiah 13:26, only God confronted Solomon. Because he loved him. His entire inner circle? Complete silence. We can speculate about why. Perhaps they were afraid. Who wants to tell the most powerful king in the world that he's wrong? Maybe they'd grown comfortable with their positions and didn't want to risk losing their status. Maybe they thought, the kingdom is prosperous, my family is safe. Why make waves? Perhaps they genuinely feared Solomon would fire them, exile them, or worse. But whatever their reasons, their silence was devastating. You're here because you crave the kind of stories most people miss, ones that make you think, assess what you believe, and examine further the world around you. That's exactly what we deliver. We prioritize accuracy, depth, and a passion for uncovering things that matter and make sense. Be the one who knows stories others don't. We're here to help you become that person. We believe it's already within you, and we're just here to pull that out. The Watchmen who wouldn't watch. There's a powerful verse in Ezekiel 33:6 that speaks directly to situations like this. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, That person's life will be taken because of their sin, but I will hold the watchman accountable for their blood. Solomon's advisors were watchmen. That was their job, to guard the king's spiritual and political well-being, to speak truth to power, to sound the alarm when danger approached. But they didn't sound the alarm. They saw the sword coming and stayed silent. Isaiah 56:10 describes this kind of failure perfectly. Israel's watchmen are blind. They all lack knowledge. They are all mute dogs. They cannot bark. They lie around and dream. They love to sleep. Mute dogs. What good is a guard dog that won't bark when intruders break in? Avoid channels that are clickbait and waste your time with their flashy videos. Our channel is your home for the most captivating and deeply researched stories that bring them to life. It will leave you craving for more. We guarantee you'll be amazed with each visit. Alternatively, you can continue with content that offers little value, but remember, doing nothing can be costly too. The devastating consequences. The results of this collective silence were catastrophic. According to 1 Kings 11:11-13, God declared judgment. Since this is your attitude, and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. Nevertheless, for the sake of David your father, I will not do it during your lifetime. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. And that's exactly what happened. The United Kingdom of Israel, forged by David's courage and expanded by Solomon's wisdom, was ripped apart during Rehoboam's reign. 10 tribes rebelled, the kingdom split, and centuries of warfare, idolatry, and eventual exile followed. All because the wisest man on earth drifted from God, and the people around him who could have spoken up chose comfort over courage. Just go ahead and check it out. What's the worst that could happen, right? Don't be a chicken. The timeless lessons. So what can we learn from this tragedy? First, wisdom alone doesn't guarantee we'll stay on the right path. Solomon literally had wisdom beyond all other humans, and he still fell. We need more than knowledge. We need accountability, humility, and people who love us enough to tell us hard truths. Second, even the most blessed can fall. Solomon had everything: divine wisdom, wealth, power, peace, and God's personal appearances. Yet none of that made him immune to temptation or compromise. If Solomon could fall, anyone can. Third, silence in the face of wrong is not neutrality, it's complicity. Complicity is like being the silent partner in a mischievous scheme. Even if you don't pull the strings or commit the act yourself, you're still in the thick of it, sharing the blame and the intrigue of the wrongdoing. When we see leaders, friends, or family drifting from what's right and we say nothing, we share responsibility for what follows. Edmund Burke said it perfectly. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Literally speaking, they betrayed their boss. Fourth, speaking truth to power requires courage, but it's what real friendship demands. Proverbs 27:6 says, "Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses." Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is deliver a hard truth that stings but heals. Finally, Ezekiel 33:6 reminds us that watchmen who refuse to warn will be held accountable. If you're in a position of influence as a parent, friend, pastor, teacher, or colleague, you have a responsibility to speak up when you see someone heading toward destruction. It's better to be a barking dog, strong and resilient even when facing challenges, than to be tied to a master who is no longer alive. I share unbelievable stories that may be new and of a different approach to you. Once it's live, only subscribers will be the first to know. My stories may not be for everyone, but if you have a passion to be different and want to dazzle your friends with style, you belong here. Each like and subscription fuels more incredible stories, ensuring you'll never be left out. The modern mirror. Think about your own life. Are you surrounded by people who will tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable? Or have you surrounded yourself with people who only tell you what you want to hear? And flip the question, are you willing to be that honest friend to others? When you see someone you care about making destructive choices, do you speak up or do you stay silent to keep the peace? Oh, buckle up. If you don't get this, you could be staring at a pile of gold, and there you are thinking it's just some fancy copper. Conclusion: Solomon's downfall wasn't just about foreign wives or golden idols. It was about the slow drift that occurs when wisdom is abandoned, when God's voice is ignored, and when those who should speak up choose silence instead. His advisors had the knowledge, the position, and the access to make a difference, but they chose comfort over courage, safety over truth, and their silence cost a kingdom. Let me leave you with this from Plato. The price of apathy towards public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. True friends are the ones who warn you about bad breath, mismatched socks, and got something stuck in your teeth and laugh with you about it later. Everyone else just lets you go viral. They don't care if your house is clean. They care if your fly is up. And from Scripture itself, Proverbs 16:18 warns, "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." Solomon had all the wisdom in the world, but he lacked the one thing that could have saved him: someone brave enough to tell him he was wrong and the humility to listen. Don't let that be your story. Open up your mind and further enrich your understanding of well-researched knowledge, which is the foundation of true wisdom. Remember, it's essential to select content that offers something of value.